welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television show for MSME viewers. We bring you the most relevant information to empower you, the MSME entrepreneur. Today, we're talking innovation here in India, and I'm in conversation with Dr. Roland Busch. He's the global CTO at Siemens AG. Roland, thank you very much for speaking with us here on ET Now, on Leaders of Tomorrow, talking about innovation and some things that are exciting you as far as innovation here in India is concerned. My first question to you, and while everyone talks about India as far as the demographic dividend is concerned, I want to talk to you about the digital dividend. I want to talk to you about technology and perhaps whether it's exciting you in terms of technology, digital, as well as innovation that's happening here.
Well, I mean, let's talk about digitalization. And digitalization is really affecting all our industries. All industries which Siemens is covering are affected by the way how digitalization is changing it. There's a certain reason for it, which is about really driving productivity in industries, making better use out of the assets. Predictive maintenance is one of the names of the game. It's about shortening the cycle time of development. It's about personalization of products, which is a big thing. So all of these benefits you see if you deploy digital technologies into, I mean, the full 9 yards of industries, but also in, is it either big industries or small industries? This covers all.
Okay, so speaking of industries across the board, the Leaders of Tomorrow, of course, is India's only television show that speaks to small businesses on a daily basis. Yes. So my question to you really is whether you're seeing enough happening in terms of innovation, technology, digital, specifically with small businesses, given that you do cater through them, you do speak to them as well here in India.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about manufacturing industries in particular. I mean, one of the big customer base of Siemens is indeed small and medium-sized enterprises. And here comes the problem, but also the opportunity on the other side. The problem is most of these small companies, they don't have a large IT department, they don't have these capabilities on the one side. On the other side, they're exposed to the pressure from the market too, in order to really drive the productivity. So this is where we are bringing solutions as Siemens to these customers, to our customers. Most of them, by the way, are already buying automation devices from us, or maybe mechanical or electrical stuff. And what we are bringing is a platform. Our industry platform is called MindSphere, which can be deployed also to small companies. It's a cloud platform. And we can bring also applications which we develop for certain industries and bring them to small and medium-sized companies too, in order to really drive their productivity, also with limited capabilities and incremental investments. Okay,
so you raised a very interesting point, saying that small businesses say that they don't necessarily perhaps have the financial capabilities to be able to use, technology and digital. Cloud, of course, is the answer to that. Do you need to perhaps also undertake education in terms of using the cloud for small businesses? Because a lot of them still say, we don't have the funds for it. Right. When you have tools like SaaS, when you have tools like cloud.
Digitalization, very often people are saying, what does digitalization do to the jobs? Does it cut jobs away and so on? And I don't think so, but it changed the qualification level. It changed the jobs which you need at your manufacturing site. So this is one point, that you have different kind of skills. You need to train the people on the one side. On the other side, what we are trying to provide is a platform which is easy to use, so that you don't need to have whatever 10 years training in digitalization in order to deploy it to your site, and also make incremental investments. I mean, you made a right point on clouds, for example. You don't need to invest in a big server farm in order to use it. So you can subscribe with our MindSphere platform to any kind of cloud. And we are working, by the way, with very strong partners here. We have SAP Cloud, AWS, or Amazon Cloud. Soon you will have a Microsoft Azure Cloud available with our platform, so you can pay as you use.
All right, I want to talk a little more about what you do here in India. And I want to talk first about the plant which you have in Navi Mumbai, right here in Maharashtra, which I understand is one of only 3 plants globally that are so heavily dependent on AI and tech. Maybe you can just run us through that.
You mean Kalwa? Yeah, this is we do switchgear products in Kalwa over many years. And this is where we always say we have to eat our own dog food, or maybe in nicer words, we drink our own champagne. So where we are deploying our technologies also in our manufacturing sites to show customers what it does. And here comes one example which we are very proud of. We were running a little bit less than 80 different variants of switchgear products on 3 lines. And now we can run 180 variants on 1 line. So this is how powerful it is if you really deploy the right technologies with incremental investments.
Okay, speaking of incremental, I do understand, and there's been a lot of concern, a lot of talk here in India that even as you're deploying technology more and more, it could come at the risk of losing jobs. I do know that this is a very lean factory that you're looking at in Navi Mumbai. So would that perhaps also, has that question ever come up? How do you perhaps, juggle between the two then?
Yeah, this is more about increasing your output rather than reducing the amount of people you have. And I always come back to our maybe the best example in the world, which is Amberg, which is a manufacturing site in Germany, where we're manufacturing our industrial PCs, our industrial computer. Over the last 15 years, they grew 8-fold, yet the amount of people is the same.
Okay.
So they are sitting on 1,200 and odd people, and they were running through this amount of people all the time. So there's no job cutting, tremendous amount of output increase. However, if you compare the jobs 10 years ago and today, they are not alike. So the key point is not worrying about the jobs, the key point is about worrying about education and training. I'm always saying that the cycle time of digital technologies is as short as a couple of months or half a year. And this cycle time has to be mimicked by the training which you do to your people. They have to train all the time. It's lifelong learning. And that's for me one of the biggest challenges which we have. And we talk training in engineering, but also in blue-collar workers.
Okay, so you've raised a very important point as far as training is concerned. The people that you see here in India, the engineers that you see in India, are you happy with the quality? Do you think that perhaps, like you're saying, you are undertaking training every 4-6 months, etc. Is it possible for small businesses which are running a tight ship then to constantly train? And if not, in your opinion, then what's the solution?
First and foremost, I'm happy with the people, and the people which we say very smart people in India. I think the zero was invented here too. So therefore, we really have a good people. The key question also for small and medium-sized enterprises is they should worry about the investments into their people. Coming back to education and training, that's something which is very often underestimated. You really have to have a dedicated budget for it. Siemens spends 500 million euros on education and training of our people. And this is a number which is going to increase. So this is what you really should worry about, and putting them in the right training. So really hands-on training, Siemens, we also developed, and I triggered that, we developed even a training for our top management on digitalization, because very many of them really, they didn't grow up in this generation Y. So they really have to have a certain base knowledge on that. We do that training for our top management too. Would be a hint, by the way, also to our listeners from small and medium-sized enterprises.
Okay.
It doesn't stop at the blue-collar, white-collar work. It should engage in terms of training and education the middle management too.
Roland, I'm going to take a very quick break on that note, but we will continue this conversation in terms of innovation, the big picture on innovation for Siemens in India. That's on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight we're talking innovation in India with the global CTO of Siemens AG. One part of training and education, of course, is training and education for employees within companies. But at the other end, of course, you have students coming out of colleges, and you had the IT industry body not too long ago saying only about 20% of students coming out of colleges in India have the requisite skill sets for the jobs that they're being hired for. Yes. So that's a huge gap as well. Is that a cause of concern?
This is a concern too. And maybe it's getting even worse, because what we are looking for, and this is something which we cannot find in the market, so we have to train the people on our own, is people who know, on the one side, have an IT expertise and domain know-how. So know how a manufacturing line runs in automotive or process industries. So the combination, and I come back to our MindSphere application centers, currently we bring this expertise together, experts with domain know-how and IT experts. Obviously we sooner or later want also to have people who have knowledge from both ends. And that's something what we have to train. We see that more and more often. You can compensate it to some extent also with new technologies. This terms of artificial intelligence kind of database, they capture more and more this domain know-how in the data itself, but it's a long way to go. Until then, we really have to have a lot of training also of the people coming from either side. Either they are trained as mechanical engineers, then we train them on IT, or they come from the information technologies, and then we train them on.
We started this conversation talking on innovation. A lot of the large companies here in India say that they're finding it hard to invest into R&D and therefore innovation because their shareholders don't understand. You know, it's a question of ROI at the end of the day. So I can only imagine that smaller businesses are finding it even more difficult to innovate. So my question to you is how perhaps that dichotomy for a small business can be handled. And do you think that, you know, and you're someone who's constantly doing it at Siemens, so has that ever been a question of, you know, an ROI, for instance, taking a hit and your larger community not being able to support that innovation?
It's a constant question, not only for small companies, for large ones too. I mean, Siemens is spending, we spent last year 5.2 billion on research and development and engineering. We are heading for 5.6 billion. And if you ask for really company core technologies, where we're looking really advanced, we are spending 500 million in these company core technologies, looking ahead. And that's quite a substantial amount of money. And people always ask for ROI, which is sometimes very difficult to calculate. Small and medium-sized enterprises maybe don't have the firepower, but they also have to look ahead. My recommendation here is and this is one of the magical worlds also in the digital space, is ecosystem. The way how you're working with your customers is also changing. You come from an end customer, then you have OEM, tier 1, tier 2. Currently we are working in an environment where you have an ecosystem of people interacting with each other. We are building up our ecosystem too. Even Siemens, a 360,000 people company, even us, we cannot, and we have a very broad range of technologies, we don't pull this whole thing on our own. We need strong partners. We need partners from the IT space. I talked about cloud services, integration services. I mean, Tata Services is one of the examples, Artus is another one. So we need an ecosystem. And this is my recommendation to the SMEs too, that they say they could think about what are the partners they want to drive innovation with. And engaging with them, it could be a smaller scale, but they can be very selective and say this is where we really invest on our own, and this is where we are relying on a platform from a partner, and we pull that kind of innovation in. And by the way, we do the same. We do not develop our own cloud. That's available. Why we would put money there? We are focusing our investments in that way we can differentiate.
Okay, you're saying partners, and one of the partners in the ecosystem is, of course, the government. I want to talk about the role of government here in India. We have, you know, ambitious big-ticket programs like Make in India, for instance, Digital India, Skill India. Have all of these had any impact in terms of, you know, the work that you do here? Have you started seeing sort of the impacts really out of those initiatives on the ground?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, your economy is growing since a couple of years with 7% and above, and we see that also going forward. So obviously, there's an impact. I mean, there's really momentum. This market is picking up, and this is also triggered by the initiatives from the government, which we see. We see that very much in our smaller sized business, where we have a small product business and any kind in the energy space, in the industrial space, manufacturing space. Making in India is getting momentum. We see that, and this is really pulling very much. We see that to some extent also in the larger business or larger project business, where we still there could be a higher speed, obviously, in getting these projects triggered. India needs a lot of investment in logistics, in the rail market, rolling stock, infrastructure market too. So I believe this is also taking momentum, but here we are expecting more to come in the future. So overall, yes, we see that, and this is a reason why we have a particular focus on the Indian market.
Okay. Another initiative of the government is the Smart City project, and I do know that you're quite actively involved there. Maybe sort of a future outlook that you can share with us in terms of what are the specific business opportunities when it comes to Smart City project in India, maybe where you see yourself headed as far as that initiative is concerned.
So we are focusing on smart cities since, 7 years or more. And we learned a lot. And first and foremost, if you talk about smart cities, there's a different understanding wherever you go. Mm-hmm. And a smart city in Germany maybe looks different from a smart city in India or in the United States. Mm-hmm. So you really have to gear your focus and your applications, what you're going to serve, to the respective market. First statement. Second statement, very often people thought a smart city is just displaying the data on a screen and look at it. Mm. This is where more the IT companies were coming from. That doesn't do the trick. What you have to do is the smartness has to be really embedded in the core processes of a city. I mean, let's talk about, let's say if you talk about traffic management, it's meaningless to say that you have a traffic jam here. What you want to do is you want to be active, you want to manage your traffic with a predictive traffic maintenance, traffic management.
Sure.
So therefore, this makes, or if you talk about grids, you really have to go into the backbone of your grid to automate it better and to have it uptime. So this is where our offerings are coming in. Okay. So we know how to run a grid for a country, for a city, a nanogrid, a microgrid, to optimize it and to make it stable. Stable in terms of how to run it, but also stable in terms of if you ever default, how you can you bring it up quickly and make it more resilient.
A lot of critics of the Smart City project here in India say that India's villages are still not electrified, and therefore, we're talking at a point when, smart cities. So that's my question to you. What perhaps are the opportunities that you're seeing outside of just the Smart City projects when you're looking at Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, even villages and towns in India?
Actually, very often when people talk about smart cities and they talk to me, they say, okay, what is about Delhi or New York or whatever, big cities. And I say, no, I mean, for me, the mid and small sized cities are maybe much more attractive and interesting. Number one, you have more of them. Mm-hmm. Number two, most of the growth coming from them. And number three, once you have a solution for one, you can much easier reduplicate. Sure. You won't be able to reduplicate a solution from New York and bring it to Beijing or to Delhi. Mm-hmm. That's a different place. So therefore, we are focusing on these smaller smart cities too, and bringing kind of easy to adapt packages. And you just touched one point. It's meaningless to talk about a smart city if it's not electrified yet. So we are talking about microgrid solutions where a smart city can start building without having a big grid connection. Maybe they're even not connected to the grid properly. How can you run it in a kind of a self-containing way, putting up renewables, photovoltaics modules, maybe a small turbine, and make it as a stable environment. Okay. That's what this city needs.
Okay. Well, last question to you then, Roland. We're talking, of course, at a point when the Indian economy is booming. Perhaps you can leave our viewers with your view on 2 or 3 things in terms of innovation that you think is really going to pick up and therefore pose a business opportunity for the small businesses who are watching the show. So
first point is what I believe, what's really in terms of technologies, what is capturing, and this one I'm saying is not only for India. I think this is a global view. The first thing what you will see is the way how we call it the electrification layer, the sensors, the actuators is changing. You will see that there's much more intelligence going into the infrastructure, into manufacturing sites on a ground floor level. Mm-hmm. Which is something which really you will see a lot of benefits. Mm-hmm. A second underlying technology is what we call our MindSphere platform. Is the backbone, which once you have it, you can drive your productivity. It's an investment, it's a no regret investment, so to speak, because you can build upon. You can start small, you can pay as you use because you do cloud technologies, but you have to start somewhere. And these technologies, they will develop very fast, and there will be not too many platforms in the world. I mean, it's like we call it operating system, and you see how many operating systems are really living on your consumer world. So this is a second one. And the third one, which is really underlying, is any kind of analytics, artificial intelligence, neural networks kind of learning. These are technologies which are cutting across all industries and will be deployed in a much, much broader sense as we go forward. Okay. These are key enabling technologies driving digitalization.
Roland, thanks very much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. It's always great to get a global perspective on innovation. If you have any feedback on this interview for us, or you have any questions, we love hearing from you. And here's how you get in touch. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. On Twitter, tweet at me at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now is our official Twitter handle. You can also reach us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.